Round 6 of the URC, and the surprises just keep on coming. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. The theme for round 6 seemed to be that scoring early tries was actually a bad idea this weekend for some reason. Lots of teams getting ahead early, but ending up on the losing side of the final scoreboard. But, this is probably the most exciting start to a URC season that we've had in a number of years. And it's just a pity that it's come after the World Cup where everybody is kind of suffering from fatigue. But a lot of things happened this weekend. We had, massive Irish derby. We had some surprise results. And also we had Springboks World Cup winners coming back into a lot of the South African sides as well. So without any further ado, let's get into the results of the weekend. So we're going to start with the first match on Friday, which was Cardiff 31, the Stormers 24. So Stormers are one of those teams that actually had that really good start. Venter goes over after 4 minutes. Nell adds a second try after 12 minutes. And, it looks like that they're cruising a little bit. Then Cardiff hit back through... It was a hammer web, but then Fernberg and Ngomazulu stretches them out with a penalty as well. So, looks like they're still in control of the game. Belcher then scores from Cardiff just before half time to, get them a bit closer. 3 points the difference, I think, at half time there. And then into the second half, then Stormers push again. Nell gets a second try. And, it looks like maybe Stormers are going to get that first win in like they'd lost 3 in a row, right? So we're looking for a win. They were looking good for it then. Like they've only just scored, and then Grady goes over for Cardiff, and then De Beer then pops over in penalty with just under 20 minutes to go. Everything's tied up, and then Cardiff were able to produce that finish where Literick, I think the guy's name was, he gets over for a try right to death, and then De Beer converts that one as well. So Cardiff, really good result for them. We've been waiting really for a statement win from one of the Welsh regions for a very long time. I know the Stormers haven't won now in 4 games, but still this is a big victory for Cardiff to be able to do that against, because Stormers, whatever their the form coming into this, they're still a quality side, and even without many of their Springboks, for Cardiff to win that one, I think that is a bit of a statement from them. But I say this a lot about the Welsh sides. We need to see more. We need to see it consistently, and we need to see them being able to go on a run and not just produce one-off wins. So, but a very good start to the weekend is on the Friday game, and then the other Friday game was really good as well. We had Edinburgh 22, Benetton 24. So Edinburgh, another team who go off to a great start. Kinghorn gets in after 2 minutes. That guy is just absolute menace. He's such a threat to the try line. He's got pace, he's got a pass, he's got footwork, he's got almost a dream fullback. And I said it before the World Cup that if Stuart Hogg had been fit, he would have been nowhere near that 15th shirt, because Kinghorn was just so good at that time, and don't think he would have been struggling to get into the 23, honestly. But Kinghorn goes over, then they get another try through Curry as well, and it looks like they're in control. Then Benton start coming back at them. We have Mendy, he goes over for a try, but then looks like Edinburgh have re-established themselves just before half time. Kinghorn gets in for his second, and this one is converted by Healy as well. So they're they have a decent lead at the break. But then the second half almost exclusively belongs to Benetton. Within 2 minutes of the restart, Zanon gets over, Umaga converts it. Then, they're putting pressure on, but We then have a yellow card for was Spagnolo, and from that penalty, then Healy stretches that lead out, and it looks like it's maybe going to be enough for Edinburgh to see it home. If they can get another score, it feels like they're going to win the game. But it's actually Zanon who goes over again for Benetton with about just over 10 minutes to go. It's converted as well. The conversion nudges them a little bit in front, so we're at 24-22 then. We even have time then for a red card for Sneijman, but Edinburgh just cannot produce that finish to get the win. So Benetton, just an amazing start to the season from them. Edinburgh, though, they've had a decent start too. So it's great to see two teams in really good form going toe-to-toe the way these two did, and a pretty entertaining game by all accounts. Next then onto the Saturday games, where we saw the other three South African teams just absolutely destroy their opposition. First up were the Lions against Zebre. So Zebre actually been decent this season. They got that first win in 18 months, and they've been pressing teams a lot as well. And the Lions haven't been in the best of form, so you might have thought, oh, maybe there's a chance there for them, but the Lions were like, nope. 3 tries in the first 15 minutes. Then they get wrapped with the bonus point within 30 minutes. And, suddenly Zebre wake up a little bit. Jesse goes over for the try for them, but then Van Wyk, a few minutes later, he's over for the Lions for the 5th try before half time. Into the second half then, the Lions add another 4 tries, so total of 9 tries for them in the game. Zebre do manage another couple of tries themselves, but the game is absolutely done and dusted by that stage. And just a really, great performance from the Lions. And, the great thing about a lot of these South African teams is that when they see a vulnerability in the opposition, they just keep going after it and after it and after it. They don't kind of take the foot off the pedal, and that's what the Lions did here. Was they just kept on going right to the very end. They get Chituka gets over like in the last minute for the last try as well, just as they keep on pushing that one, and they ring up 60 points, 61-19, and an amazing win for them. And that's got to give you confidence going into the next few rounds as well. Then didn't stop there for the South African teams, and the Bulls then playing Connacht, who have been in decent form themselves, but the Bulls again get a nice start. You got Van der Merwe going over after 11 minutes low. Second try in that first quarter as well. Then Nortje gets over as well. Kilgannon does get one back for Connacht, but then Leroux, he had an excellent game, I felt. He goes over for the bonus point try, wrapped up just before half time. Second half then, maybe a little bit more even on the scoreboard, with 3 more tries for the Bulls and 2 tries for Connacht, but there was always ever going to be one winner in this one. Once the Bulls got that little bit ahead, and we saw them using the power of the pack and the ability of those special backs they have as well, to just really make sure that Connacht weren't going to get a sniff in this game. Connacht has shown before that they can come back in games, but the Bulls were just said no to that, and made the win pretty comfortable in the end, honestly. And it's a big statement from them as well. They've had some big results this season. They haven't had, they've probably been the most consistent of the South African teams, but still it feels like there's even more to come from them, and that's a bit scary for the other teams around them in the league, I think. Next then we have the Sharks. So Sharks against the Dragons, and the Sharks finally got their first win in the season, and boy did they do it in style. 69-14 to them. Another quick start for them, but it's it was a win. Fassi gets over, then Mapimpi as well in the first quarter, and then Blacker hits back for the Dragons. Dragons trying to make a bit of a game of it. With that, I think there were 10 points or something, or no, it was because the Sharks missed the conversion, right? So it was like 8 points or something at halftime was the difference. But then second half, the Sharks just absolutely let loose, and Dragons got 1 try in the second half, but Sharks had done 8 more tries, in total of 10 tries and 8 different try scorers as well. Really, really good stuff from them. And again, just they kept it going and going. They never kind of let Dragons really have a sniff back into the game. And even when the Dragons did get their second try, it was only 5 minutes before the Sharks are over again, and a couple of minutes later they score again, and it was just it was just done and dusted as a contest. And the last 10 minutes then was about how many points could the Sharks rack up. They were heading towards 70, and they almost got there. They added 3 more tries there to hit that 69. And yeah, just a great win for them, first of the season against a team that have been down there, at the bottom of the league as well. So, Sharks trying to extricate themselves from that position and push up the way they did last season to get, into the playoffs. So we're going to have to see, can they follow this up now with another win, or is this just going to be, a kind of a standout result, and they're going to go back to kind of, the way we've seen before, where they weren't scoring that many tries and weren't winning at all. Okay, next then, we have the big Irish derby of the weekend. It was Leinster 21, Munster 16. So Munster, another team who got a fast start but ended up the losers. So Casey goes over for a try after 5 minutes. I thought himself and Crowley were excellent at halfbacks and really did kind of outshine their Leinster counterparts, but still it wasn't enough to get that win for them. Crowley was keeping Munster in the game, from the tee, but we had Gibson Park, kind of an opportunistic try for him. Munster attacking, who was it? It was Byrne, right? Offloads kind of just loose. Gibson Park kicks it through, has the pace to get there to go over. Then Sheehan, probably, one of Leinster's best players over the last 2 or 3 years, at least consistency wise. The guy just always seems to have impact. He goes over a try, and then Larmour then with some lovely stepping to go over for the third try, and then Leinster couldn't quite get over for that bonus point try, but I think Munster at least deserved a losing bonus point out of the game, because it was a really good performance from them, and you can see that the gap between Ireland's 2 biggest provinces really has narrowed since the start of last season, really. Okay, next one then we have is Glasgow Warriors 33, Ulster 20. So these are kind of 2 teams that I view very similarly in that they've both been thereabouts, up near the top of the table over the last number of seasons. But when it comes to the knockout rugby and putting the hand up to win a trophy, they always fall short. And it feels like one of them has to, at some stage, deliver on the promise that they've had over the last few years. And this was a good test to see which team are really in, trying to put themselves in position for that. And it looks like the Warriors are the ones at the moment, at least. But again, it was Ulster, the losers, who actually get the quick start. So Tom Stewart, who was so good last season with the with the number of tries, like he was not just the top try scorer last season, but he broke the record for number of tries as well. So he gets a try, so no surprise there. Then Cooney, I thought, who had an excellent game, has been playing really well lately. So is Doak. So that that competition for their 9 jersey really is hotting up there between those two, and it's great to see that, because that's something that Ulster are going to have to they're going to need, I think, to drive them on, especially when we get to European games as well, to kind of keep those performance levels up. But they're leading early on, but then Warriors start coming back. So Kennedy goes over, then starting the second half, Turner gets over and Rowe, and Warriors are just starting to come back a little bit. Cooney puts over a penalty as well to kind of keep things close between them. But then we talked about Stewart being the top try scorer last season. Well, Johnny Matthews is another hooker who loves to score a try, and he's the top try scorer so far this season. He gets 2 tries in the last kind of 20 minutes or so of the game, and it was very close going into kind of that last period of the game where it looked like the game would go either way, but Glasgow just had to finish, similar to the way they did against Leinster earlier on in the season as well, that they were able to just pull away. And that's something that I felt like they didn't really have last year against top teams in tight games, was that they didn't have that ability to go again. They either had to hang on for a close victory or they got pipped at the post. But that ability now to keep going, and if Matthews is going to be their option off the bench with Turner starting, then that's a great weapon to bring off the bench. A guy who can get that many tries, and it's not just about, he just happens to be the hooker at the back, and therefore obviously he's going to get the tries if they're relying on mauls, line-out mauls to score. It's more about getting in that position and being able to just that nous, really, to know when you stick in and you drive over, or when you break off. And when you break off, can you put on a bit of footwork? Do you have the power to get over? Can you get yourself nice and low in your body as well to get over? And he has that. And that's why he's getting so many tries. It's not just a case of he just has to be the right guy in the right place. It's an ability as well that he has, and that's great to see for the Warriors. And I'd love to see them really pushing on, maybe in Europe, like to go deep into a competition and get to a final and maybe get that trophy that I think they've been kind of threatening to at least get close to in the last few seasons. Next in, so after those guys, we had the Sunday game. So the Sunday game, it's one of 2 games I covered this weekend, which is Ospreys 31, Scarlets 9. So Scarlets actually start this one, in the lead. You got Johan Lloyd, pops over a penalty for them. Then Kieran Williams actually scores a maul try, coming in to add some ballast, but he ends up with the ball actually at the back and goes over to score. Then Lloyd pops over another penalty to make it a 1-point game, but not too long after then, Williams just picked a nice line and came nice and hard off 5-meter scrum and got himself over that line for his second try of the game. Then Lloyd again is just trying to keep Scarlets in touch, and gets another penalty before half time. So at the break, it feels like the Ospreys are in control, but Scarlets, if they can find something, they could get back into the game. But their attacking play was uninspired. It was really wet conditions and it was difficult, but the Ospreys still, they had the power in the pack over them. They had the set piece over them, and even when they moved the ball, they looked the better of the 2 teams as well. Morris gets over for a try to kind of start stretching Ospreys away, and at that stage it looked like the game was over. And then Edwards comes on for his debut, a little bit of cameo from him. Nagy actually tried a little chip over the top that completely scuffed it, but somehow the ball ended up in his hands anyway. He offloads to Edwards. Edwards then a nice pace and a step to go over under the post, converts his own try as well. Brilliant debut for him. He's somebody who's looked good at under 20 level for Wales, and it looks like he's going to have a bright future, and hopefully he's going to be part of a new wave of Welsh players who's going to kind of breathe new life into the regions, because I think they need it. And yeah, I'm hoping to see more Welsh regions winning against non-Welsh teams. So let's fingers crossed and hope that we can see some Welsh teams coming up there and really threatening those playoff positions. But talking about the league table, let's have a look at it now. So leading the way there, Glasgow Warriors on 25 points. They've got 5 wins and just that 1 loss. So really doing well up there, and they've got to keep that momentum going. They can't have a dip in form. They've got to try and stick in there and at least get themselves a home quarterfinal. It's a long time till the end of the season, and teams like the Bulls and Ulster found last year as well that if you have a dip, it's really hard. Then you got to work even like doubly hard to get yourselves back into that position again. So it's all about keeping momentum going for them at the moment. I think Leinster, who haven't had the best start of the season, but still they've won 5 of their 6 games as well. Just that 1 defeat actually to Glasgow, and they're on 24 points just below them. But it feels like Leinster, they still haven't really clicked fully yet this season. And when they do, you just know somebody's in for a hiding, but they are beginning to show signs that things are starting to work for them. But I still felt that of the 2 teams between Leinster and Munster the weekend, Munster looked the slicker on attack, so Leinster definitely have work to do in that area. The Bulls, they've kind of been a Jack and a Hyde team really this year. When they've won big, and they've just looked so impressive. But then in the defeats, they've looked kind of a little bit lost for ideas. If teams can match them physically, and and then take away that ability for them to spread the ball and attack as well, then they kind of find it hard then to win those close games at the moment. But that's something that kind of comes with time. So I think over time, they're probably going to stay up there as well. They've been really decent side for the last few years. And, other than the Stormers, who've won the competition 2 years ago, they've probably been the best South African team in the competition. So they'll want to kind of emulate the Stormers and get there. They've been in the final already, but they'll want to go a step further, and that's a lot of the teams that we see at the top. They're on 20 points, and Ulster the same, who've been thereabouts. They've been in finals, but they haven't got themselves, they've been in semi-finals, quarterfinals, etc. consistently, but not delivering as well. Just, and it's not just the case of that with Ulster and Glasgow as well, to a certain extent, is that it's not just that they're getting into position and then kind of losing a narrow game. It's that they're getting there and they're not performing in the knockouts, and they're getting blown away. We saw Leinster trash Glasgow a few seasons ago. We saw Ulster, losing games that they felt that they should have won, especially against Connacht last year as well. But they're there in 4th place on 18 points. In Edinburgh, who had a great start to last season and then kind of fell away in the middle, they're going to want to keep going because there's lots of teams on 18 points with them as well. And it's going to be so easy. If you slip up once, suddenly you're gone from being right near the sharp end of the table to back down in that chasing pack, trying to claw your way back up. Benetton there, it's crazy to think like Benetton, they've won 4 games and they've only lost 1 game this season, but they're still down in 6th place on 18 points. That's how competitive things have been this season. We've got Connacht next, then also on 18 points in 7th. Munster there too, defending champions, and rounding out at the moment the playoff places, but tons of games still to go. We've got another 12 rounds of the regular seasons to go as well. So, but when you think about that, that means that we're already a third of the way through our regular season. So, there's a lot of ground for teams who are outside the playoffs to make up as well. But Munster there on 18 points. Then we have the Ospreys in 9th, the best of the Welsh teams on 15 points. Got the Lions, who had that massive win at the weekend. In 10th on 14 points. Cardiff, who had that statement victory against the Stormers, but it's only been their second win of the season. So, they've got to find some consistency and try to move their way up. They're on 14 points in 11th. We've got Stormers, who, they started the season well. They won 2 games back-to-back, opening 2 games, everything looking rosy in the garden for them. And then suddenly 4 defeats on the bounce for them. But, you can still see, even though they've had those 4 defeats, they're not that far away. They're just still only like a bonus point win away from being on the same points as Munster up there in 8th, but they're currently down in 12th and 13 points. Then you have Zebre, who've had amazing start to the season. They've had a win, they've had a draw. They've also had 4 defeats, but last season every game was a defeat. So this is just a massive step forward for them in terms of competitiveness. But they're down there in 13th place on 11th. We have the Sharks, who finally got their first win of the season and did it in immense style against the Dragons as well. And they actually leapfrogged the Dragons up into 14th place on 7 match points. The Dragons then, who only got 1 win themselves, they're on 6 match points on 15th. And, only for the fact that the Scarlets have been absolutely trashed on at least 3 occasions this season, maybe even more. But no, yeah, they got a hiding at the weekend, but I think twice in South Africa, Bulls and Stormers, and Leinster as well. That's a massive, 3 of the best teams in the league. I don't think anybody would argue with that. To play at the start, but still, it's just the manner of the defeat is the problem for them. Is that they've got to get something going and start moving themselves off that bottom of the league as well. But you can see, even with those guys down the bottom, it's fairly competitive between them. Last season we had teams still looking for wins at this point. Zebre went through the entire season and everyone got a win, but you can see that these teams, they're not that far away from even pushing up towards the playoffs. If you can go on a run of 2 or 3 wins, suddenly your whole season changes in terms of momentum, and if you keep that going, you're right in there with a chance. So it's, I think, easily the most competitive season we've seen, or start to a season we've seen in a very long time. And one thing though to point out is that even though it has been super competitive, I'm pretty sure that of the top 8 that are currently there, 6 of them actually finished in the top 8 last year as well. So the cream is beginning to rise to the top. And if you want to be one of those teams from outside of that kind of group of teams, which is more or less Glasgow plus the Irish and the South African teams, then you've got to keep your momentum going, because you're going to get swallowed up by the pack otherwise. But I'm really excited about how things are shaping up, and every round that comes around, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, oh, this is a big game, whereas last season it didn't feel like that. It felt like the only big games were basically Irish provinces versus South African provinces, and at that, even only some Irish provinces versus some South African provinces. But now you've got so many other teams putting the hand up, the likes of Glasgow, Edinburgh, Benetton. You got the Welsh teams beginning to show that they might find a bit of form as well. And yeah, it's just really exciting so far, and I hope that it continues for as long as possible.